changed everything. The way I walk, the way I breathe. Will my fate shift into the night? But here I am, same old thing. Sinking deep, no ecstasy. Reality haunts and lives in mine. If I saw another day, only to scream into the night. Nothing ever tries to change, even if I want to realize. 'Cause I've been sitting here, same old ways, taking off without the same mistake. Darling, when you go away, it won't be as simple for you.
Yo, guys. It is Old Man G here, RDS, back again with another late show for you guys. First of all, I hope everyone can hear me loud and clear. Tom should be coming. I think he's busy, got some paperwork to sort of take care of. So you're just with me today. But, we've got some breaking news regarding Anthony, and obviously it's been, it's breaking. I say breaking, it's been all day, but this is a late show, so I'm going to react to it, read the statement, and basically see. I mean, United is chaos right now, but thanks, guys, for tuning in. And remember, if you are new to the channel, remember to like, share, and subscribe to Red Devil Studio. Follow us on Twitter. You have to exit, smash the notification button for latest Manchester United news and more. So, I mean, guys, Manchester United, it's really a bit of a mess right now. From controversy to controversy to controversy. Also, get in the chat as well, guys. Get in the chat as well. Shout out to Lucky Singh, Rob, Daniel, and KT7 in the chat as well. By the way, KT7, I have the name of that song, by the way. I'll let the I'll make sure I post in the chat. But yeah, this is mad. I mean, for those who aren't aware, well, let's just read the statement, guys. Let's get into it. There's no need to. Let's just get into what's been going on. So, here's the club statement. As you can see, Manchester United acknowledges allegations made against Anthony. So they acknowledge the allegations, okay, contrary to popular belief, people saying that they're ignoring it or hiding it or whatever. He said players who have not participated in international matches are due back in training on Monday. So those who have not been involved. So that would probably be, I'm trying to think, is anyone in the Manchester United team that's not been on international duty? Probably Onana. I don't think he's got caught up for Cameroon this time. Lindelof was probably called up. Maguire was called up. Martinez was called up. I don't think Wan-Bissaka was, so Wan-Bissaka would probably be there. Who else? Casemiro would have been called up. Yeah, the only Onana and Wan-Bissaka. I think everybody else, and Sancho obviously, but we'll talk about Sancho later. But I think everybody else that I know of who has got called up, So where's Big Tom? I'm waiting for him. I'm waiting for him now. He said he's going to be. He's on his way. He's just running a bit late. So, but I'm waiting for Big T to turn up as part of the duo. So hopefully he'll be here in a little bit. But anyway, yeah. The point being is that we have quite a few players that didn't go on international duty that would return to training. So, however, it has been agreed with Anthony, so it's a mutual decision, that he will delay his return to further notice in order to address the allegations. As a club, we condemn acts of violence and abuse. We recognize the importance of safeguarding all those involved in the situation in order to impact these allegations have on survivors of abuse. And I think here's the key line here. It has been agreed with Anthony that he will delay his return until further notice. So we don't know because I'm not familiar with the Brazilian judicial system or how things are going to go. I do know that obviously Anthony's put out a statement saying that he intends to, echoing what United said, and that he intends to basically go and clear out his name and address these allegations and prove his innocence. And obviously, I think over the weekend he went on TV saying he didn't do it. So, I have always kind of said that I do think it's a bit bizarre that when you have an ongoing investigation allegation that so many of these things are put on social media. It just doesn't make sense to me. So because anything that is said in public or is based on that the police and people can use. So if you're saying something whilst an ongoing investigation is going, the usual advice from a lawyer is that you shouldn't say anything because it can potentially be used against you in court. So I don't know. Even if, yeah, I don't know. What I do know, however, is this is obviously we don't know when Anti's going to be back. Now there might be some Manchester United fans that are like, "Oh wow, Anti's got going back. He's not been great for us all season." I don't know, but the reality is, and as Rolf says, the soap opera continues. Big up, Rob, big up, Rob. Um, we don't know when Anti's going to come back, guys. We have no idea when Anthony's going to come back. You then combine that with the situation with Jadon Sancho, and then we're in a situation now where it's like, who even is going to play on the right wing for Manchester United? Who? Um, United are basically back playing football um, this coming weekend against Brighton at home, and we don't know who's going to play on the right wing. And I think we'll talk about later on in the show. But I don't really want to sort of go into the whole thing of did he do it? Is he guilty or not? I don't know what's going on, etc. That's not my place because it's an ongoing investigation. Um, but what I will say is that I hope the situation for all parties involved is addressed. Um, I hope that they can get to the bottom of the situation. And I just hope that all parties involved are able to find a resolution for this. But you got to feel for Ten Hag because he's in a situation where he's like, this is just not fair. This is just not fair. If you're Ten Hag, you're thinking, you were promised, you were probably told in the summer that you didn't need to go out and get a striker, another striker, because Green was going to come back. That didn't happen. And now you're in a situation, your 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 main right winger, the one you bought, has got alleged allegations to him, and he's going to be out. And then now, you have to contend with the fact that your second choice right winger basically has called you out in public. So the soap opera, as I mean, it's soap opera, guys. It's a soap opera. It's a massive, massive soap opera at Manchester United Football Club right now. And I don't really know if I'm honest, I don't really know how we move forward from here. Now, does this give opportunities to others? I mean, you think about Sancho, right? And you think about how if Sancho just kept his mouth quiet for like one more day, then he's literally like, I mean, he's literally going to take his chance. He's literally in the squad till Anthony essentially comes back. Like, like Sancho's like, I'm not going to get just like he's literally got this opportunity now. Now United are not short of wingers. They have options. Like, we have our options on the right. That's one thing that I would say is that, okay, yes, Anthony's gone, but, you can play Sancho obviously on the right. You can play Palestra on the right. You can even play Bruno on the right, even Mount on the right when he comes back. Rashford can obviously play on the right as well. Um, and then obviously Ahmad potentially when he comes back when he comes injured. So Manchester United are not short of potential right wing options. And I'll probably put a post in. I think I might. Let's put a poll. Let's put a poll. Also, who should replace Anthony on the right? Let's start a poll, guys. So who should replace Anthony on the right? I'd be interested to see what the community says here. So we're gonna put Sancho. We're gonna put Palestri. We're gonna put Bruno. I can't put Ahmad, unfortunately. Um, I can't put Ahmad because Ahmad is injured. You know, and yeah, Thomas will be with us in 5 minutes. So and then Bruno, Rashford. There we go. So all the fit players, right? So let me know what you think in the poll. Who should replace Anthony on the right, and we'll take it from there. Um, but yeah, guys. Oh, just when can we get a break? When can we actually get a break at Manchester United Football Club? I don't know. I generally don't know when this football club can get a break because I am I know people are cussing ten I know cussing ten against, but I generally am um generally am feel sorry for Ten Hag because you know you don't necessarily have the summer you want. You know, you've been promises have been made, um, and then you know for reasons that are outside of your control, suddenly your squad is a lot thinner than it should be. Not to mention the fact that you've got injuries. I mean, for goodness sake, I think that you know Hoyland, obviously he's fit, he's back, but he didn't get the go ahead. We're now hearing that Amrabat is also injured. I don't know how long Amrabat is going to be. I think it's going to be a back injury or something. He's been withdrawn, so you're going into the Brighton game and you're thinking, right, okay, so out of all the summer signings that we have, who is actually available? Onana, cool. Not Mount. Not well, Hoyland is available. Who else did we sign? Completely forgot. Who else did we sign? Who else did we sign? Hoyland, Mount is available, Onana is available, and Amrabat is out. So two out of our two signs are starting. Anthony's not there. It's a mess, man. It's a mess, guys. It's a mess. Rob says I would give Palestri a run in the team. So glad he didn't go on loan, but I could see him pushing Bruno on Mount when fit. Yeah, this is what I think as well. My preference actually would be to put Palestri on the right. For me, put Palestri, Hoyland, and Rashford, and do that would be my preference. Is what I would do. However, I just have a feeling that against Brighton, he'll play and going forward, maybe he'll play either Bruno or Mount. Because Mount's not back, so you probably play Bruno on the right, and then you'll play Casemiro, Ericsson. Who else would be in number 10 though? That's interesting. Maybe McTominay would come in, unless Mainu's fit. Um, if Mainu is fit against Brighton, Mainu might come in for that midfield, and you'll have a midfield of Casemiro, Mainu, and Ericsson with Bruno on the right. That I think might happen, you know. But then again, it depends on the whole Sancho situation. So, but let me bring my guy Tom, who's come. Let me just bring Tom, see how he's doing. Tom, buddy, how you doing?
Yeah. Not bad, G. Not bad, G. How's you?
Yeah, not too bad, man. Thanks for coming on, man. Appreciate it. Just when this late show won't be too long. So, but obviously, you know, the reports about Anthony and what's happening with the club. But I mean, what are your kind of initial thoughts about that? I mean, we're not really going into the whole did he do it or did he not do it or that type of thing because that's for the police and the people investigating to decide. But just about what this means for Ten Hag, you know, Manchester United, etc.
Well, whatever way you look at it, it's a negative on all aspects. Really, it's a negative for the club. They've invested in this player. You know, they've invested roughly in a £90 million player, and they can't. It's not that they can't play him. They've come to an agreement with the player to say that he's not in the right physical or mental condition to play. Which, if I'm being honest, I think the club have, you know, took the player out of the limelight. And Ten Hag's done this, as we say, with what happened with Jadon Sancho, where he had, you know, mental health problems towards the back end of the Qatar World Cup, and then coming on from it afterwards. And then he took him out of the spotlight for 3 months. And Anthony, basically, the club, and I'm sure Ten Hag will have had an influence on the decision as well. And look, I think, you know, there's a tough decision to be made, and I think United really have made a good. How can I say they've made good of a bad situation? I guess is the best way that I can put it. I think distancing the player from the football club, but also still keeping that relationship there. Again, like I said, the manager as well, having that relationship with the player also is going to help as well. And I just think that the whole situation really has been boiling up for months. This isn't something new for people that maybe haven't understood this. These sort of allegations were coming out towards the back end of last season. I think it was around about May, sort of June time, that these allegations were first sort of coming out, but they were more based from the Brazilian media, really. And then it's filtered its way over the channel to, well, over the way the Atlantic, sorry, to the UK and to Manchester predominantly. So, but again, you've got to let all the authorities do, a thorough and, conflicting, investigation, and there'll be a resolution from it. When at the end of the day, there's no point in getting into, like you say, gee, has he done it? Has he done it? Hasn't he done it? At the end of the day, listen, the lives are being destroyed from what's actually happening. These women clearly have a tale to tell, and Anthony will obviously make the defense of it. And I think even if he, has done it or hasn't, you can see in that interview the guy's broken. And he would, if Manchester United were even considering playing him in front of 70,000 people against Brighton, shame on them. Shame on them, because there's no way in hell that in that sort of emotional state you can go out on a football field and you can be concentrating on football, because you don't know what's happening with your own life. And personal life and football, I don't think should be mixed, me personally. You do what you do in your personal life. You have family, you have kids, whatever. Like, go and be a family man. Do whatever you want to do. You want to be a party boy, go and be a party boy. Rave on the Saturday night town or whatever. Whatever you want to do, keep your personal life and keep your football life separate at the end of the day. And United, I think, have done that really with Anthony, but they've said, look, you clearly can't concentrate on your job properly. And at the end of the day, if you're in a work environment and you're not being able to give 100% to your employers, they're going to probably give you withdrawn absence or leave from absence until a certain point, until you're ready to come back. And that's what they've gave to Anthony. And at the end of the day, we're just going to have to see where it pans out from here, really. But if only some, footballer, JS25, maybe didn't make the post that he did, he might have got his wish by now. And he might have been playing at the weekend. But again, we can't really go into the specifics of it and everything. But no, I think from a club's perspective, they'll be pissed off because of the amount of money they've invested not to be able to play this player. They are still paying him his contract.
Wages,
of course, they've got to do that. They're legally contracted and law-binded to do that, as they were with Mason Greenwood, because he hadn't been convicted with anything. So they were still paying him upwards of £100,000 a week. And they're going to be paying Anthony's wage per week. And Ten Hag's going to be frustrated because this is one of his players that he's invested in. He's brought to this football club to be one of his main players. And he can't, and he's not available for selection. So he's going to have to work miracles. And do you know something? There was a quote tweet that I saw somebody make on Twitter, and it was, have you ever heard of a manager in any environment or football club that's had to deal with the amount of situations that Erik Ten Hag has in the last 16 months?
Well, there you go. Exactly.
Like, you've had the Ronaldo situation, you've had all this takeover shite, you had the injury crisis in January.
Maguire.
The Maguire situation, there was criticism of his involvement with the Mason Greenwood situation and how the club handled that. And loads of criticisms have been made of him. The sort of signings he's been bringing in now and the slander that he's had against his name when it's only been 4 games. People want him sacked. He's got a 50% ratio. He's won 2, he's lost 2. What can what do you expect from the guy? It's the start of a season. Nobody's expecting you to blow the water away and, top of the league. I'm
genuinely surprised. I agree with him. I'm genuinely surprised how, I feel like it's weird. Like, so many past managers have had were given more leeway, as it were. I don't know whether maybe it's the social media age. I don't know. But so many past managers were given so much more leeway than I've seen Ten Hag been given. The guy came I even criticized him towards the end of last season because I was like, because of the manner in which we lost games. But as you said, given everything that's happened, it's almost kind of like I don't really know, is Ten Hag going to be sacked or stuff like that? It's like this man literally finished third and won United a trophy in his first season, and apparently doesn't mean anything. Meanwhile, people are bigging up and Big Ange, Arteta, etc. All these dons, and at the end of the day, they didn't win anything last season. Even Big Ange, who's doing quite well, he's just been knocked out of the Karabuki Cup, and Spurs aren't realistically going to win the title, so he only has one trophy in the FA Cup and potentially a top 4, top 5 push, So, sorry, there's one thing I see in bath time. Shout out to bath time, man. Where's Mount in the poll? Mount is injured, so I've deliberately not put any player that is injured in the poll. So otherwise, I would have put Mount and Ahmad in the poll, but it's more for just who's available. So in fact, let's go. So actually, the question: who should, and let me know in the chat as well, guys. Who do you think should actually replace Anthony? I put a poll in the chat. So far, from what I can see, there's been about, I think, like 13 votes, and 69% of you said Palestri, 31% of you said Sancho, with 0 for Bruno and 0 for Rashford. What do you think, Tom? Because obviously, the statement, as I said before you came on, is that, it's been agreed with Anthony that he would delay his return until further notice. So we don't know when Anthony's going to come back. It could be a month from now. It could be months from now. We don't know. Is Martin made for Brighton? From what I gather, he's getting ready for Bayern Munich. So I don't think he's going to be. I don't think he's going to be available versus Brighton. Against Bayern Munich, I think so, but not against Brighton. And given the nature of the injury, I think it would be. That's the thing. Like, I mean, I'm always one for, like, especially after what happened with Harry Maguire. If someone has been injured out for a while, I'm always very reluctant to bring this person back straight into the starting lineup after being out for a few weeks of an injury. That's just, I'd rather pick or play with someone who's still been regularly playing football, who's fit, etc., than like just putting someone straight back from injury, has barely had any training sessions, and hopefully see what they will do. At least that's my opinion anyway. The TRA. Yeah, that's an interesting thing. We'll talk about that later in the show, actually, because I did see that, and I saw a Twitter post, so I'm interested to see what Tom's thoughts are on that. Tom, who do you think should replace Anthony?
I'm really in the same boat as you. I think Palestri, he deserves it. He deserves a chance. He does deserve that opportunity. But do you know something? With how Ten Hag works, I would not be shocked if you see Bruno Fernandes on the right wing, and he'll just play another midfielder in the middle, or play one of, if you say Mount's back or Eriksen, whoever, he'll play one of them at 10, stick Fernandes out wide, or he'll do a madness and you'll have Garnacho on the left, you'll have Højlund through the middle, and you might have Rashford on the right, something like that. That I don't necessarily believe he's just going to throw in Palestri there. I don't think it's going to happen. I do think he should be given the opportunity. Absolutely, I think he's had brilliant cameos in certain games. Spurs, he took the complete piss out of Spurs' defence in that last 10 minutes when he actually came on. I've never seen a player drive at the byline before for a long, long time at Manchester United, especially not a wide player. Use every width of the pitch as a wide player. Take it to the direct goal line if you have to, like he did against Spurs, and we played the ball into the box and there was nobody there, unfortunately. But at the end of the day, we don't have enough players that do this thing. We have a number 9 that you can stick the ball in the box to now. Palestri is a brilliant crosser of the ball. Low sense of gravity, can drive at people. You saw in the game, we played Eriksen. I think we played I think Eriksen, because Eriksen came on for Kobe Mino in the Real Madrid pre-season match. We ended up playing Eriksen, Fernandes, and Casemiro in the midfield. When you saw Palestri come on and he has that burst of acceleration, Eriksen could not get away from Camavinga for any part of that game. Neither could Fernandes or Casemiro. Camavinga had the whole midfield as a defensive structure. He had that defensive structure of Real Madrid's midfield on tight lock. Palestri comes on, he's skipping away from his challengers, nutmegs him, runs away with the ball as if it's nothing. And I've said it about Pellistri. He is almost like the Manchester United that he's the sort of Manchester United player that City have had that similar player for the last 10 years in their sort of system. They had it with David Silva, and now they've got it with Bernardo Silva. Low sense of gravity player, can play out wide, do a job through the middle, maybe even could play as a false nine if you wanted to. But the problem with Pellistri is he's not been given that opportunity. Whereas now, if Anthony's not going to be, like you say, eligible for, say, a month, that could be that 5 or 6 game running that we could give to Pellistri and give him that opportunity. And look, if he then, after the 5 or 6 games, we don't see much of it, well, do you know what? I think a lot of people will sit there and they'll be like, do you know what? I'm proud of Erik ten Hag because he's actually given the lad the opportunity. And then you can't then say about Pellistri that give him a chance, give him an opportunity or anything like that because he's had that chance and he's not taken it. But again, like I say with Jadon Sancho as well, if he's been asking and he's been crying out for this opportunity to say, I want to break back into the Man United team, this was your chance then, lad. And obviously he couldn't have foreseen what was going to happen with the Antony allegations. But if he'd have kept his head for one more week, and if Jadon Sancho's not sitting there now in his situation when he'll know the club statement that's been made and everything, if he doesn't turn up tomorrow, I honestly, if I'm being honest with you, because from what I understand, Ten Hag and Sancho are both going to actually speak about the incident internally tomorrow, as far as I'm aware. And when that actually happens, if Jadon Sancho doesn't come in with the sort of stance of, look, I went over the line, across the line, I'll take a minor punishment, maybe you don't start me for the game, or you fine me, or you do something like that, that's fair enough and I'll accept it. But I want to move on from it, Erik, or something like that. Like if they do something like that and if they like just paint over the cracks, I guess, then Jadon Sancho might, and I say might because of how Erik ten Hag's been ruthless with players in the past, even at Manchester United. If he do get the, as I say, paint over the cracks, then Jadon Sancho, give him the 4 or 5 games, like I say with Pellistri, give him them. And if he does sod all, then what can he actually argue about?
Well,
he hasn't got a case. Then he hasn't.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. I mean, Shad Efat Comedy FC. I mean, that's the thing. Is that this is why I said I wish he'd just been quiet, because now that Anthony's out, I need opportunities. Like, here's your chance. You now got an opportunity where you can basically you can be Manchester United's main man on the right. But as Bath Time has just sort of said, and I'll just quickly get the quote up. Where was it? Mount, I think, will long term will go to the right wing, but if he's not fit against Brighton, I bet my house to be exactly. I wouldn't be surprised if against Brighton it's Bruno, and then Mount goes there long term. So Mount goes onto the right, Rashford on the left, Højlund in the middle, and then you have Bruno in obviously the number 10 role, Casemiro, and then, does he still play Eriksen? I suspect he'll probably play Amrabat over Eriksen. That's what I think. And what he interchange between Amrabat and Eriksen. I don't think Ten Hag's going to season thinking that Eriksen should be playing 90 minutes. And of course, you have Kobe Mainoo, who potentially will give some relief to Casemiro when he comes back. I suspect that's how Ten Hag is going to go. Which is a shame, because I would like to see more Pellistri, but I just don't see that happening. I think Pellistri will just end up being a backup super sub for Mount on that right position, and then I think that obviously Garnacho will be backup for Rashford on the left position as well, or they'll alternate by maybe shifting Rashford to number 9. There are many different things that front can do, but it is what it is. Red Armor stuff. I'm gonna address that as soon as Tom comes back. Because that is good. That is interesting. Because if I'm honest, I'm not sure what's going on. I'm really not sure what's going on. I got the impression from the tweet that there was something about them being seen as like a risk group or something, and now they're not doing any like away games or bring any support or something like that. And Manchester United or unhappy. So, but I'm going to ask Tom for some more clarity um, about that, because that is it's a bit strange. It's a bit strange. We'll get there. Let's just see any more comments that I see. I think tonight what he's injured, unfortunately, Ifak. He likes left-footed right wingers. Um, what else? Charlie says, I think Ganacho will play on the right now that Anthony will be gone for 2 weeks. He might play Ganacho, but I've always thought with Ganacho, I feel like Ganacho is still not at the level to be a starter. Like he's a good impact player from the bench, but starter, I just don't think so. Not for 90 minutes. And I think Ten Hag knows this too. That's why I think that he'd rather start Bruno and or Mount on the right first before even thinking about Garnacho. That's what I think anyway. Ahmad, I don't think has the physical to play in wide areas. I think he's more of an 8 a 10. That's fair. That's fair. Although I mean he's still young, so obviously the stuff like that, and he's still growing, so stuff like that can change. But he's injured right now, so doesn't help. And obviously he was playing the championship. At best, I think we see Plestri being used like Ale was last season. Impacts of the stretch games. Exactly. That's what I think. Do you want to tell the lads about the Red Nose? I've seen a lot of foreign fans that don't really understand who they are. I mean, I don't think I can give it justice, but I'm like I said, I'll save it for when Tom's get back, so we can tackle it together. Because I still don't quite understand the situation, because it almost seems to come out of the blue from what I saw on Twitter. So, but I get the impression that this situation goes like back, like before this. So yeah, I need to. Basically, what I'm saying is I need to get some more information before I say my piece. So yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it's just going back obviously to Anthony. It is really, really, really frustrating. But unlike say if this was in midfield or in defence as a centre back, I think Manchester United generally do have options in right wing. So I hope the situation gets resolved. But I do think Manchester United, as long as you can cope, we can cope. But I don't know how good or bad of an omen this is, just regarding Manchester United's season, man, because we're just taking L after L after L after L after L. That's what I think. G, are you feeling confident for the Brighton game? Am I feeling confident? No. I mean, okay, so who's going to be starting? Right, okay, so as far as I know, Onana's going to be in goal. Wan-Bissaka will be right. I think it'll be Lindelof and Martinez, from my understanding. So Lindelof and Martinez will be the defense. Then you'll have probably Dallo, not Reguilon, as left back. Midfield will be Casemiro. Amrabat's injured. Mainu, we're still not sure, but it could be him. And Mount is injured. So it's probably going to be Casemiro, Eriksen, and Bruno, which, that midfield is unbalanced, man. It's unbalanced, and Brighton are going to go through it, and that's my worry. If Amrabat was available, Mainu, anybody but Eriksen, man, the legs, he just doesn't. Great passer, but he just doesn't have the legs, man. He just doesn't have the legs. He really doesn't. And Brighton, do. And I think the midfield are going to potentially cause us major problems, especially if our attackers. None of our attackers have scored yet. We're 4 games into the season, and I don't think a single United attacker has scored. Just deep that. Varane scored the goal against Wolves.
Rashford against Arsenal, didn't he?
Oh, sorry, yeah, sorry. I said that's a lie. Rashford did score against Arsenal. Sorry about that. So 1 goal.
Yeah, but 1 goal out of 4 is still not good enough.
Yeah, no, exactly. So, but it was a good goal. It was a good G by Rashford. I'll take it that it was good. But yeah, I'm not sure is the point I'm trying to make. I'm not sure, guys. I think it's going to be a difficult game, and I think the fact that we have so many injuries and that we can't rely on impact players. We're now down Anthony. We don't have a situation what the Sancho situation is going to be like. Mason Mount's probably not going to be fit. So when you look at the bench, it's like what's, you're thinking, who play. I don't know. It's going to be difficult, is what I'll say. I like to think that we should beat Brighton, but with De Zerbi being the coach and with Brighton also starting, they've had a fantastic start to the season, with the exception of being schooled by West Ham at home. If we've got any chance of beating these guys, personally for me, I think that we do a West Ham, we sit back, we counter-attack, even if it's at home, even if it's boring. We have Højlund obviously now, so that will help. So let's just sit back, counter-attack these guys, and use Højlund and Rashford to get at them. That's what I think until we can get fit players so we can do something in the midfield. Now, it's good to see you back, Tom, because Bath Time keeps on asking me, and I thought we're just together, the TRA comment. So, because I'm seeing a lot of stuff regarding the Red Army on Twitter. Now, from what I saw,
regarding what, sorry?
The Red Army. Do you know much about it or no?
Not really. No. I've been bogged down in paperwork nearly all day, so I don't.
Let me see if I can find the Twitter. Let's have a look. Do you know who the Red Army are?
Not that I know of, no.
Right, okay, let me have a quick. I'm just going to find the tweet. Okay, right. So here, I'm just going to. What I'm going to do, I'm just going to share this. This is what comes from the Manchester United Match Day Twitter account. So let me just get this here so everyone can see it here. Okay, so this is from the official MUFC Match Day information Twitter account, etc. They post match day stuff, so that people are kind of aware. So, so as Bath Time says, it's a 2K season ticket group in the Stretford End that help to coordinate our atmosphere at matches. That's basically what they do.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So they're kind of, it's I guess the equivalent would be, they're sort of like United ultras. This would be like a nice way to describe them. So this is a Twitter post I actually came across, and this is a Manchester United Match Day statement, and they say the club is aware that a statement has been made by the Red Army today informing its members the group will not be managing the atmosphere section for our fixture against Crystal Palace in the Carabao Cup and Galatasaray in the UCL.
Mm-hmm.
The statement from the Red Army states that approximately 2 weeks ago, we were given information that led us to believe TRA has been classified as a risk group. So essentially, from what I'm gathering from this, they're saying that they were told or they were informed that they were in a risk group, or they were informed, Manchester United were informed that the TRA were a risk group. For clarity, this is coming from Manchester United. Manchester United has never considered or classified TRA a risk group. In early March, following the placement of TRA in S229, the Barcelona local authority stated in the communication to the club that TRA may be a risk group. We immediately discussed the issue with the leaders of TRA and agreed our chief operating officer would meet with Jimpy to question this logic. Our chief operating officer met with the Greater Manchester Police and received confirmation that TRA were not classified as a risk group of supporters. The above collaboration was shared with TRA on the 26th of May 2023. We have not had any further updates from Jimpy to say they have reclassified TRA as risk support, and we do not expect to. And we are disappointed that TRA are not running the section for these cup games, as these fixtures, because they are cup fixtures, represent three very important matches in key competition, and the atmosphere section plays such a vital role in supporting the team in the big moments. We are proud of what has been achieved and support the section for Erik and his team, and we'll continue to try to work with the TRA as it's not an interest of the team, the fans, TRA members, that the section is not operational. Thank you. So I take from that, Bath Time says the club gives them allocating so they're all together, yeah. The bottom of the argument is about the sit-in protest, I think. So my understanding from the tweet is that this issue is regarding Manchester United or the TRA group thinking that Manchester United view them as a at-risk group. So what happened in Barcelona? But I think Bath Time and some other people saying that they think the issue or the way that Manchester United are dealing with this issue is regarding to the sit-in protest that happened before.
Mm-hmm.
and it's because of that we're getting this kind of conflict, etc. Is my understanding of it. So, but I thought you might have a take on it that I wasn't aware of. So, because, like I said, I don't have the background to this to really give an extra opinion, other than the fact that like all this does again is just further illustrate the chaos that is right now at Manchester United, and then you're now in a situation where now, United are going to be going to away games, against Galatasaray, potentially seeing that the lack of away support in these games, which obviously may potentially harm the players on the field. It's just ridiculous. I don't know. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, considering that the chief operating officer has actually gone and met with local police in Great Manchester Police to question the logic behind the statement that's been made aware to them. And look, I think at the end of the day, the club always needs to take care of. I always say that any football club should take care of its loyal supporters. And what I would say by loyal supporters is that you have people that have been buying season tickets and consistently renewing for, say, 10, 15 years or even upwards of that. I've got a story with one of my good friends who, during the COVID time where they obviously you weren't allowed back into the fixtures and everything, and they were enabling fans to either resume their season tickets from the following season when COVID would have been undertaken, so therefore that fans could go back in the stadium. And it was actually Richard Arnold that it reached out to the family at the time, and my friend told me about it anyway, where his father is 80 years old. He doesn't know really anything about technology or anything, so they were trying to get his season ticket sorted out for the following year because they tried to renew it through online, but because his father always used to go to the ticket office every single game and every single start of every single season and get it renewed that way, technology wasn't really the strengthening point. And because they didn't actually have any details of him personally per se that were actually logged on like an online system to say this is his track record of renewing year after year. So effectively what Richard Arnold ended up doing was they just gave him a full season ticket for the full season, fully paid for, fully established and gone for. And I look at things like that and I think the goodwill gestures of the club, you always have to take care of a loyal set of the fan base. And in the same way that you need an atmosphere. In a big stadium like Old Trafford, there has to be an atmosphere. It can't just be dead and, dross, where you don't have anybody singing, you don't have any chants, you don't have anything going. There's no point. What is the point in going to a football game if there's not an atmosphere there? You could win 7-0 in a game. What's the point? Is there really going to be that much enjoyment if there's not going to be much of an atmosphere? There isn't much point. And you're spending top dollar to go to a top Premier League club where you're spending maybe upwards of £60, for an average ticket per game or whatever. I think that's sort of the pricing of it. For an average ticket per game, you might spend 60, 70 quid. And really, are you going to want to spend that much money out of what you've earned from your salary or your weekly wage to go to a football game if you're not going to have an atmosphere? Atmosphere is what makes football games, realistically. And the biggest one that I would say in comparison to with, say, United is Newcastle. Newcastle's fan base, they're a very loyal fan base. They've always stuck by the club, the directors, and even when they had the hatred towards Mike Ashley, they always stuck together as a group. And ever since that takeover, you cannot go to St James's Park and there's not one home game where there's not an atmosphere. It's that hostile environment. United don't necessarily have that same environment. It's built on the history and the legacy. And it's almost like any team that comes to Old Trafford, it's their cup day. That's how people perceive it. So from the statement, obviously, that we've just briefly read here, if they are classifying, TRA as being a risk group, I think it's absolutely ridiculous. In comparison to what some fans did, like there was a couple of years ago, you had it with Paris Saint-Germain, the PSG Ultras came over from Paris. They were in the Manchester United away end. I think they made damages to the seating and the infrastructure at the back end towards the stands and the seating area. They burned the seats and threw them to the pitch. when I think it was Mbappe or Di Maria who scored one of the goals, they burnt the seating and they lobbed it on like elderly and disabled supporters below them. It was disgusting and it was disgraceful. And I think PSG ended up paying a fine of upwards of £20,000 for the inconvenience and damages made towards Old Trafford. But it's not the point at the end of the day. And you're telling me that that's not a major risk towards, like I say, the elderly community or the, mobility, say, for accessible supporters. It's disgraceful. And then if you want to class these things as being a risk category, I think it's a joke. Everybody's going to have to chant and support. And if this, like you say, G, if this is off of the back of that shite with the protest, well, it's absolutely disgusting. Because if you're not going to let people protest, Manchester United should not be an English football club. Then go and move it to the MLS. Go and move it to somewhere where a country or a nation or a state don't believe in freedom of speech or protest. Go and move it to that country or that nation. Because England, the morals of it is you can protest wherever you want, you can say whatever you want. As long as you don't break the line, like I say, burn seats or damage the infrastructure or, cause physical or, psychological harm to somebody, verbally or physically. So long as there's no fisticuffs, what's the problem? Voice your opinion and say what you've got to say. And like I say, that sit-in protest, people say, oh, it didn't work, loads of people left the stadium. When you consider that United had to keep the stadium open for longer, they had to hire more staff to actually do the security work and stewards for an extra hour, which will cost them money. They have to keep the concessions of the actual stadium running legally by law because it's still a match fixture. And they also had to call in local law enforcement, which will have cost them thousands of pounds to do. So when people say the sit-in protest didn't work, it did. Because it cost the club more money, which harms the Glazer family's pockets. And that's what it is all about, the Glazer family's ownership of United. So again, as I say before, I don't look at any section of the United fan base and say that they're a risk category, because I think at the end of the day, you have different demographics of supporters. You have your long-timers who have been going to the games 30, 40 years. You have maybe your father and son duo, go to the football on the weekend, buy, a full kit or whatever at the megastore or, concessions within the ground. And you have your tourists and your day trippers. And it builds up the demographic of the whole football club. And it's the fabric of it. But at the end of the day, if you're not going to have an atmosphere in the stadium, shut the stadium down. Play with no supporters. Because if you don't want to have an atmosphere, just go back to COVID times then. Play closed behind doors. But at the end of the day, I think it's... If like you say, if this statement, if what they're saying around them being a risk group, if it's, been proven that that's what they categorise them as, I think it's a disgrace at the end of the day. Nobody should be singled out or categorised. And if they are a risk group, do you know what I'd say to do, Benji? Ban a lot of them. Don't renew the season tickets and ban a lot of them then. But do you know what you'll get? You'll get another, say, 2,000 people who might take those seats, who'll be just the exact sort of same people as the previous ones. And the atmosphere will still be there. So what they're going to do, just bar every single supporter until what? No Manchester United fans left on the earth. It's not going to happen. So at the end of the day, I always say keep the loyal fan base in the loop. That's what I would say.
Bathtime says, I just checked, and the TRA of the 1958, and obviously, for those who are unaware, those are two separate organizations. The Red Army and 1958 are two different United organizations. They organized the sit-ins, must have collaborated. My wild speculation is the club are now trying to convince the GMP, which is Great Manchester Police, to treat them as a risk group by the harsh measures against them. I mean, the cynic in me says, to be honest, the cynic in me, Bathtime, says that I generally don't think the Glazers give a crap. Like, I generally do not think the Glazers give a crap. I mean, maybe management might be thinking like that, but I just don't think they care. I just don't. I don't think they cared about the city. And even though it did obviously affect things, I don't know. I just think that, or if they do, yeah, I don't know. I don't know, but you could be right. Derek Sharp says, "Thank you kindly for everything you all do. Absolutely brilliant channel, great work, Derek. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, buddy. Like you don't know how you know whether it's the super chats or the subscriptions or the memberships or people just saying thank you. So it really means a lot to me because like I said, it's just me running this channel. Obviously, Tom, really good friend of mine, keeps you guys updated as well, and I appreciate his time for this as well. So, but like when you're running these things by yourself and stuff like that, there's a limited amount of time I think for content, especially working in a busy hospital as well. So I don't have as much time to produce as much as say other content creators are, which is probably why we're still quite a small channel. But we're almost at 4K subscribers. So for those who don't know, we're only about 15 subs, I think, away from 4K subscribers. So if you're new, or if your friends who are United fans, please get them to subscribe to the channel. Let's get to 4K. I really, really appreciate it. I like to think we're quite balanced and reasonable on this channel as well, and we're just chilling for the fans, Battles to Burns. I've always wanted the TO to have more of a presence in the South Stand, as I sat there for years, and there's too many old people. The entire board games would still be shit scared about fans calling up. Yeah, of course. Well, the board maybe the Glaze. I'm not sure about. I'm not so sure. To be honest, like I generally think that if we're talking about the statement, it's going to be the lack of success of the team. Because I think if you're getting a situation where United fail to qualify for the Champions League, and then you have all the negativity around the football club as well, that's when I think maybe the Glaze are going to think, you know what, I don't know if we should continue to do this anymore, because it's going to be very difficult to convince potential buyers of the future success of Manchester United when they're constantly not being successful and constantly losing money. At least that's what I think. But yeah, fine. Let's round things up. So going almost back to the subject of this, which is Anthony, who should replace Anthony. We'll obviously play Brighton the weekend. I mean, I've been wanting to do this Welcome to United Amrabat video for a minute now, and whether it's illness or whether it's because of breaking news like this whole with Anthony, or whether obviously the sale, different things like that. At some point, I will welcome Amrabat to Manchester United. At some point, hopefully before the Brighton game. But if we go back to what you think will happen, just to round things up, Tom, how do you think? And let me know in the chat as well, guys. How do you think United should line up against Brighton?
If I'm being honest, probably not too dissimilar that they had from the Arsenal game, barring that you're going to have obviously a couple of injuries. Onana's obviously going to be goalkeeper. It'll be interesting to see. Me personally, I think he'll put Reguilon at left back, if I'm honest. I think he'll go back to the
Dalot? Really?
I think he'll go back traditional, because I think he'll play Dalot on the other side, and I think he'll give Wan-Bissaka a rest out of the fold of it. And then if he needs to bring Wan-Bissaka on to contain, say, Matoma or whatever in the second half, if he's running rings around them, then you can play, obviously, with the transition of, all right, we'll just bring Wan-Bissaka on and stick it on him.
Matoma's on the left, though, isn't he? Matoma's on the left or right?
Yeah, so if he's on the left wing, he's a left winger. So when he's on the left wing, he's going to be playing up against the right back. So
Wan-Bissaka, which is fine.
I just think that Wan-Bissaka, we know, is a brilliant tackler of it, but I think Matoma can get at him, as we saw in the FA Cup semi-final. He can get past you, and he is a persistent player. He'll try it 5 times, and he'll get past you that once, and it's only that one time that he needs to get past you to score the goal. That's it. So for me, I would rather have somebody who can keep up to the pace with him, where I think Dalot can do that. But yeah, you run the risk of getting, outplayed or defeated. But at the end of the day, providing United cover the space, or again, you have one of those mobility utility midfielders, the like of, say, obviously we don't know if Mason Mount might make a sudden recovery, or even McTominay, stick it on him. Give him some physicality. Stick it on him at the end of the day. So for me, I would personally, anyway, I would play Onana. I'd go a traditional back 4. I wouldn't play Dalot on the left. I think that you're just causing yourself a crisis when you're going forward, where if Wan-Bissaka gets injured on one side, you have literally got Delo and Reguilon as your fullbacks. That's it. You don't have anybody else. So I do think we have got to be management of that. And look, we brought in Reguilon for a reason. So play the lad, play him. And look, I couldn't care like when people say, you know, oh, he's not done anything for Spurs. Listen, it's Spurs, it's Tottenham. He's coming to a different environment, a different club. Let him settle in for a couple of weeks, and then we'll see what he's about. You never know. We've always said this about players. There's been major surprises in some players. I remember when Jason Park went to Manchester United. Loads of fans in the first couple of months, they've written him off. They completely written him off.
But Tom, they don't make players like that anymore. Like
No, they don't make players like that.
A hard-working player, like a really dedicated, hard-working player.
But people said to me that that's all that he was. He was just a hard-working player. But then after a couple of months, you saw the player come out of it. He come out of his shell. He adapted to the environment, and you know what? He was one of the most unsung heroes to ever play for Man United.
Oh, he was.
That's my opinion.
Absolutely.
And at the end of the day, if there's those sort of players that are rare that you can come by, Fred, okay, he wasn't the best, but he could get about the pitch. He was a nuisance.
Yeah.
And those sort of players are hard to come by as well. But again, like I said, I would go Onana, Reguilon, Martinez and Lindelof for me would start at the back, and I would play Delo, and if Delo gets hacked with a yellow card for Mitoma or something, switch it at half time and stick Wan-Bissaka on him if he's getting run.
Oh wait, you wouldn't start Wan-Bissaka?
I wouldn't start Wan-Bissaka, no, based upon that. If you get Delo should keep up to the pace with Mitoma, I would then, if you need to, because I'd rather it be a case of where Delo gets the yellow card on Mitoma first, then Wan-Bissaka does, and then he's on the tight ropes for the whole game. Whereas if you bring Wan-Bissaka on, he can just stick it on him and he's got no pressure for the second half.
I just remember that. I can't remember which game it was, because we played Brighton 3 times. We played them obviously home and away, and then we played them in the Carabao. So yeah, the
FA Cup semi-final. Yeah.
And I just remember when Dallo that was one of those games. I don't know whether that was the game at home, or in the cup, and he was just, Mitoma just cooked the guy. He was just absolutely totally cooked Dallo. Whereas Wan-Bissaka kind of kept him in his pocket. I mean, he dealt with him.
That's the thing. The thing why I'm looking at it from starting Delo over Wan-Bissaka, it's not primarily based upon that I think Delo's better than Wan-Bissaka, because they don't. One of them is going to get a yellow card on Mitoma. Listen, people joke about Ivan Toney with the bets and everything. I'll give you I'm not a bookie. I'm not a bookie or anything like that. But I'll give you an odds on that. Either one of whoever plays at right back will get a yellow card on Mitoma. That if I'm putting a bet on at the weekend, that's what I would put on, because one of them is going to get a booking, and I would rather it be Delo. You can hack him off at half time if need be, and you can stick Wan-Bissaka in, and then you've got a full half where Wan-Bissaka's not on a tightrope with a yellow card against, I would say, one of the best wingers in the league for me. So that's why I would go with Onana, Reguilon, Martinez, Lindelof, and I'd play Delo. And for me, midfield, obviously, Amrabat with the injury and everything, we don't know, and stuff. Maybe he might make the bench or something, we don't know. But I would personally go Casemiro. Well, it's going to be Casemiro, Eriksen, Bruno, probably. Which...
Well, I thought he might play. He might, because I don't think Mount's going to be available, and we don't know how the Sancho is going to work. So I have a feeling that he's going to play Bruno on. I just have this feeling that Sancho. I don't know what's going to happen, but I don't think Sancho will start. I think Sancho will be on the bench.
Yeah.
At best, and I don't think Mount's going to be available. So I think he'll probably play Bruno on the right, and then because I don't think Mainu is available yet.
Well, so, if that's the case, then we'll end up playing Casemiro, McTominay as a pivot, and then we'll set Eriksen in front of them, and then you'd stick Fernandes on the right.
Yeah, that's what I think will happen, and then Garnacho, and then Rashford, and then Højlund. That's what I think.
I just don't. The thing for me is though, I don't think Fernandes is influential on the right wing. I think I will be fair. There is some games where I think it works, but it depends on who he's against at the left back position. And for me, I think Estepinian would do a job on him. I really, really do. I think he'd do a job on him. And the problem for Fernandes is we know that he can do the hard work and the hard yards when it needs to be done, but he does it better in the middle. On the right wing, he doesn't have, like, say, what Antony does, where the defensive output that he can give you isn't as good as what he can give you in the middle because he's not a natural wide player. He doesn't know the instinctiveness to go back into the pocket or into the role to follow Estepinian or to track the run of Matoma or one of the midfielders who's coming out wide or anything. You can't do that. But the only way that I think why I would play Fernandes more in the middle is the way Brighton play with a high line. It takes one pass and one runner in behind, and you're in. That's it. Because if they're going to sit up on Man United's halfway line, if they want to try and dictate and control the ball, which I presume a lot of people will say that they're going to do, if they're going to do that, then you just need one over the top ball from Fernandes for Rashford or a Højlund or somebody to run onto, and they're off. They're gone. And I don't care what anybody says. Lewis Dunk and Joel Veltman ain't going to catch either of them. You could put the two of them in the same body, they still wouldn't catch them. Both, if you put it on one of those two players, they're gone. Simple as that. So for me, influentially, I would have played Fernandes in the middle, even if you have to compensate for Eriksen not having the legs to get about the field. Or don't play Eriksen. Put Eriksen on the bench, stick McTominay in there. I honestly don't mind. But if I'm going to pick a front three out of what I would have personally done, I would personally go with Rashford, Pellistri and Højlund. I stand by what I said before earlier in the stream that I think Pellestri's earned that opportunity. As much as people said off of the loan spell that Ahmad had last season, yeah, that's fine. I think from what we've seen with the cameos with Pellistri, he deserves to have games. And you know something, he had one game against Real Betis last season where he actually got a start, and he was absolutely immense. He was solid. Solid for the whole game.
He was. And I don't disagree with you, Tom, but as Bath Time has said, and this will I find a comment I'll read out, but you and I both know, Tom, we need to have McTominay as our right-sided 8, the same way Liverpool had Henderson and Bruno left-sided. Oh dear. But Ten Hag always want Bruno right-sided because we can press play on the left, so the right side has to have our best runners to cover that space. It is.
I will say one thing on McTominay though. When we say about him that he's absolutely useless in our own box, stick him up the other end is miles better. If you put it where he makes those late runs into the box that he was wary to do under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer because of how, if I go, there's only Fred left there. And Fred can easily get bypassed by any midfielder. That was how that really felt at that time with Man United. But when you have McTominay making these bursting runs into the box, he's a unit. Use him. And I always say this with players. Even if they've got major weaknesses, just play them to their strength. I don't care if it means that you get exposed, because playing them to their strength, you've got more of a chance of scoring a goal. And yeah, you're going to have the opportunity where you might concede. But if Brighton are going to play and want to dictate and control the ball, you need mobile players in midfield. Casemiro, we know, doesn't have the mobility to get around the field. He struggles. We know that Eriksen's lost his legs, so he can't do that job. Fernandes is too far forward in the attacking midfield role that he can influence that. So Amrabat, obviously, we know is not fit. Mount, not fit. So you're in the situation now where, Scott McTominay is that only player. And for me, even if we still had out of Fred or McTominay, I would play Fred. I really would. The energy and the tenacity that we need in that midfield to get around. I'll tell you now for a fact, United will not dominate midfield against Brighton.
Of course we won't. Of course
I would be absolutely shocked. And even after losing Caicedo and McAllister, I still say that we're going to lose a midfield battle against Brighton because United won't control the ball. These players that you're going up against, these are 11 players, and I will say 11 because the goalkeeper's just as good on the ball as any of their outfield players. Those 11 players that you're going to play against at the weekend, every single one of them can control the ball and knows how to drive and run at people. Even the centre halves, they're happy to take a risk. De Zerbi's ball is risk ball. will always run the risk of playing. And we said it before with when Pep Guardiola moves on from Manchester City. I said there was 2 managers that Manchester City had always looked at and highly rated, and De Zerbi wasn't in the conversation at the time, but it was either Luis Enrique or Erik ten Hag, and both of them are at other 2 European clubs. The best up-and-coming coach that stock has risen in recent time, anyway, for me, is Roberto De Zerbi by a country mile. And do you know something? He's lost 2 of his most influential midfielders, and he's still peppering teams. But again, the one thing that we know with Brighton, especially from this season anyway, is they are hit and miss. One week they'll turn up and they'll be absolutely immense and they'll turn you over 4-1, like they did with Wolves. The next week, they'll ship the show and they'll be absolutely crap against, a low blocks sitting team like a West Ham who will burst you on the counter-attack or rely on set pieces. So, again, it all depends on selection, I guess, but
that's fair.
We don't have the depth. That's the problem right now.
That's fair. I'm just going to get this final question because I literally have to bounce now. And this has to be the last question. So thank you, Bath Time. Would you see Ten Hag as being weak if he starts Sancho, RDS/Tom? Yes, I will. But the reason why I say that is because of the precedent. Because we've seen what Ten Hag did with Ronaldo. So because of how he handled Ronaldo and how he disrespected him, with the whole blasting off and going to down tunnels and all those sort of things, we saw what happened there. So we saw what happened when Rashford didn't turn up for training, or was late for team meeting, and he put him on the bench before he came in. So Ten Hag has shown he's a disciplinarian. So he set the standard. So if you have a player who's openly disrespected the club, essentially called the manager a liar, and you're basically saying, right, you're going to come back in the team because Anthony's not here and we're desperate. I don't know. I just think
he's not. No.
It's not looking good.
He's not going to do
bench,
that.
Sure, play him on the bench, start him on the bench, and then you can bring it on. Okay, fair enough. But starting, nah.
No. To be honest with you, G, I would be shocked if Jadon Sancho even makes the matchday squad. I think Ten Hag will do something a lot where I think if they're going to paper over the cracks, even if they sort out this little dispute, the one thing that Jadon Sancho's not painted himself in glory is you could go, like, you've still got, say, your Twitter open now. You could log on to Jadon Sancho's Twitter and the actual note document that he's put and the statement that he made is still an attachment that's pinned on his Twitter. After I think it's been 4 or 5 days now since the statement that he released. It's ridiculous. And if he's not expecting for trouble, he's not looking for trouble, I don't know what is. So with what you just said there, G, about putting him on the bench and things, I think it's gone beyond that. I think if Ten Hag looks at it, and if Jadon Sancho walks in, like I say, tomorrow, well, nearly today or tomorrow anyway, if he walks in there and goes to the manager's office and the paper over it, Jadon Sancho, you're going to have to take something. And I don't think Erik ten Hag's going to look at this and think, well, if I put him on the bench, that's still not a good look because if we're losing the game 2-3-0, I'm going to have to bring some attackers on. And he's going to be one of the ones that everybody's going to look at me to bring on. And how's that going to look for me then? I'm bringing in a player that's absolutely ridiculed me and took the piss out of me for what? The whole 2 weeks of the international break. It's all United fans have ever spoken about. But again, I just think from how Ten Hag's dealt with it, really, I think it's gone beyond, exiling him from the squad and, maybe getting him sold in January. I think it's too soon to maybe plan something like that. But
yeah, of course.
I think sit him in the stands for the game and then bring him back into the fold for the next match or something. Or you could do exactly what you've just said, G, maybe do a pattern running where you start, you're going to miss this game based upon disciplinary action. And I'm the man and I'm in control of the situation, not you. And if you want to cry about it, you want to go whinge to your agent, you want to put, things out there in the media or the press, because as much as people say the club have been leaking things, I think some of the stuff has come from Jadon Sancho as well, or at least some of his representation.
Yeah.
You don't, the way that things get worded and misconstrued, it's ridiculous. But like you said, you can't come out, and I don't care if it's at Man United or if it's at any other football club. You don't come out and question a manager's authority and don't expect to be asking for trouble. So, and the way that Ten Hag's dealt with these situations before, I can't see him making the squad. I'll be honest. Starting, I think he'd be a lucky boy. He'd be a very, very lucky boy if he even started. And I think it counting if I'm in his shoes, I'd count myself lucky if I even get to sit in the stand and watch the game. Because you know what would be an even bigger disrespect? Watch the game from home. Don't even bother. Don't even bother getting in your car, coming to the stadium. Don't even bother. Watch it at home.
Right. I mean, and on that note, big up, Rob. Big up, Rob. Hope you're doing well. Thank you for the show. And yes, we are rounding up. I mean, I'm just going to quickly look at the poll for those who voted, and shout out to everyone who voted. So from what I can see, about 33 votes, and it's almost unanimous. 76% of you guys want Palestri to start, with Sancho getting 24% and Bruno Rashford getting 0. So, that just goes to show you the level of, and I've said that I think a lot of people, I think that Sancho thought, much like Ronaldo, much like some others, that like he would get a lot of fan, and he has had some fan support, but I actually think that I don't think he got the support that he thought he was going to have, and a lot of it is backfired. And then when you combine with the anti situation, it's almost like, damn, a wise man once told me once, when you are angry, you're pissed off, don't write, don't email, don't react when you're angry. Just take some time, write down your thoughts, and then put out your statement. If Sancho had just, instead of reacting on the day to what Ten Hag said on the press conference and waited 24 hours, he probably wouldn't have said anything. 24 hours, you go and speak to the coach person, say, listen, bro, this is how I feel. I didn't think that was right. And then if he doesn't listen, then you can then post your thing on social media. If he just done that, we might have had a completely different situation. But instead, he reacted within less than an hour of the Ten Hag press conference, and we're in the situation that we have today. So it's and he only has himself to blame. Final comments. Jarvis shouted big up to Jarvis, man. Says, if I was Ten Hag, I would go over 4-4-2 diamond, playing Cass, Amrabat, Ericsson, Bruno the 10, and Rashford, Højlund as inverted forward pacing position. That would be interesting. Although we don't know when Amrabat is going to come back, unfortunately, with this back issue. When are you and Tom back on? Hopefully this week. We need to welcome Amrabat to the club. That's happening. We need to welcome Amrabat to the club. And then we'll probably be doing a match reaction to the Brighton game. I do have a preview for the Bayern game coming up soon with Bayern now, so that's going to be good as well. So yeah, we'll see about that as well. And in this, is the Pope being given a San Martino shirt still the weirdest thing that's happened with United this year? I've got no idea about that. I've got no idea. And Red Devils, guys, what's your name? You mean I'm just RDSG? Make sure you guys follow Tom on Twitter at TomTheJournalist as well. Thanks everyone for being involved in the comments and being part of the show. We will be back next week. Apologies, it's been a bit hectic for me, going up and down, etc. But it is what it is. Have a nice day, everyone, and cheers. Peace. We are out.
Peace.